Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a pop culture podcast about TV, movies, comics, and all things geek. We're listing our favorite crossovers from all media today. I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
This is Tommy Smithereens.
And I'm Clifton.
So when we selected this topic, I was a little shocked that we didn't do it already, to be perfectly honest. I'm surprised it took this long to get to crossovers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited because I know when I was a kid, when I would see crossovers on the rack, it felt like a fluke, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it always felt like, oh, they're not supposed to be doing that. How did that happen?
Right.
What are your guys like some earliest experiences with crossovers?
I was always excited just because it was a matchup that I never imagined usually. There's always some weird event or this person's here, or I always felt that somebody was somewhere they didn't belong. I never felt that certain people were in the same universe, so to speak.
Right.
So I was expecting like a portal or something. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, like I remember in junior high and stuff when we were all getting into this stuff, like if you were to listen to all of our conversations then, you would think every comic was an intercompany crossover. But right? Because it was all like what would happen if Spider-Man met Batman and all of that stuff, you know what I mean? And so I think when that stuff happened, it seemed all like really, really cool and exciting. Because in a weird way, they didn't happen all that often, even though comics are filled with them, like throughout history.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like you know, they are simultaneously like, I don't want to say rare, but yeah, like rare and they happen regularly.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
But to me, I feel it was always a guaranteed one shot because this can't be a regular thing, you know.
Right. So yeah, and that's just with comics. I mean, crossovers happen with all media. You know, I mean, TV shows, you know, do it from time to time. You know, even some movies. So that's what we're getting into today. So let's go ahead with our list. And so we're each going to name 3 of our favorite or what we think is the best crossover from all media. So, Tommy, you want to start us off?
Sure. But mine was a little weird because I misunderstood the Google search I made.
I really didn't think this was a difficult topic, but okay.
No, it wasn't. I agree. Okay. But Google made it harder for me. And here's how. You type in best crossovers ever is what I typed. Like an idiot. And guess what came up?
No.
Allen Iverson, just like the top 10 list of NBA stars. You know? I was like, wait a minute, what didn't write? And then I just keep seeing basketball players crossing each other. I was like, wow.
That is not our topic unless they're all in Space Jam.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
This is not crosstown traffic. That's not what we're doing.
No, not at all. I almost tapped out just because I was finding trouble looking for it. But then I did one word, which was intercompany, and it changed the search dramatically.
Okay.
Very good.
Yes. So as a result of it,
then you just got LeBron in Space Jam, crossover of NBA and Looney Tunes.
Yes. But ultimately, what I came up with, or at least what I saw, was the first one that glared at me was one that I liked. It didn't get enough publicity, but I enjoyed it. Was Batman versus TMNT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured someone would have that one.
Yep.
Oh, it would be me.
Which started as a comic, but was also adapted into an animated straight-to-video.
Yeah, which guarded my attention because I didn't know about the comic until I saw the movie, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh,
which
really?
made me buy which made me buy the action figures and stuff.
Interesting. Okay, so you saw the movie first and then realized, oh, there was a comic 4, really.
Yes.
4 crossovers, because it had 2 sequels, and then it had an Adventures crossover, which took place in the animated universe. So it was the Batman animated series teaming up with like the 2012 Nickelodeon CG animated Turtles.
Now, see, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Now you got more stuff to add to your shopping list.
Right.
Indeed. I gotta look up that now. Hell.
Yeah, I'd never read the comics. I had only ever seen the animated adaptation.
Mhm.
which I liked a lot. Like it is shocking how well it works.
Yeah.
Because Killer Croc is basically like a mutant turtle type
Right,
thing, but a
yeah.
crocodile. So yeah, like it checks out.
Also, isn't there a crocodile or an alligator Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle villain?
There is, with like a Cajun accent in the
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Leatherhead.
Okay.
He's a bad guy in some versions and a hero in other versions. It depends. It depends, which the 80s series made him into a bad guy.
He's an anti-hero then.
There you go.
He's the TMNT version of Namor.
Yes.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, he walks that line.
Yes. I've read the comics. I've
Okay.
not read. I still haven't seen the animated, but I want to. So I mean, for me, it was one of the things where I really liked. I liked the comics of it. The comics of it was really a lot of fun. But I still have not. I still have yet to see the animated one.
Well, the animated, what's shocking to me is that it happened. It's even more shocking than the comics teaming up. I think the fact that you actually had production people and Warner Brothers and Nickelodeon working together to make that happen. I mean, like, I feel like you see that even less often than you do, IDW teaming up with DC or whatever other companies are mingled in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, these things I think are just much easier to pull off in comic books because it's lower stakes media. Like there's less money involved, there's less people involved, and it's kind of fly under the radar. Whereas once you get to even a straight to video, like you get a lot more eyes looking at that thing, wanting to see that thing, wanting to make sure that thing is okay, and a lot harder to pull off.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think the only place we got a lot of that recently beyond sort of the TMNT and the Batman stuff was Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't until like full episodes. Usually it would be like a teaser.
Right.
Right. Like when Space Ghost showed up and stuff, you mean?
Or like when they're hanging out with I mean, granted they're still Warner Brothers, but you'd still like have Batman and ScoobyDoo.
Yeah, different subsidiaries of the same company now.
Right.
And steampunk Abraham Lincoln.
Well, yeah. Sure.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah. No, this is a really good one though. I adjusting my list now. Thank you.
I figured one of you, I knew for sure one of you would have it, so I didn't bother to put it on mine. I'm like, no, they'll get it.
So I'll find another number 3, but no, I mean, I'm excited about it because also, like, first of all, I hope they do another one animated, which I think would be awesome because I really, really enjoyed the first one. But I also kind of hope that it shows people that like these can work and these can be cool, and maybe we'll get some other crossovers in animated form down the line because why not?
Right.
So all right, so who's next?
And I'll play off of one since Frank mentioned it already, which was Scooby-Doo and Batman.
Yes.
That's going to play right into some of mine, which I'll start by going into that was my introduction to the idea of like franchises crossing over, was the new Scooby-Doo movies.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 72 to 73 was the original run. And I mean, they reran those things throughout all of my childhood. So I caught them on, one of the later passes. But that was the first one where like I'd be watching Scooby-Doo and all of a sudden Batman and Robin were in it and voiced by Adam West. And I'd be like, wow, like that would blow my mind. And then you get the Addams Family, which I loved the old reruns of, and then throw in Don Knotts.
Yep, right.
And like so many Laurel and Hardy,
like Harlem Globetrotters. Yeah.
Harlem Globetrotters was probably my introduction to Harlem Globetrotters.
Three Stooges, right?
Yeah, Three Stooges again.
How about Sandy Duncan?
Yeah, these things like I knew from other places. Like all of a sudden, like they're in with this thing I already love, and like those are the craziest to me. Dick Van Dyke even was in one, and so like Scooby has a long history of it because they still do make the Scooby movies. They did Scooby-Doo and Guess Who recently, which was a kind of updated take on this one, as well as some of the straight-to-video movies they've done in recent years, crossing over with WWE and the band Kiss.
Yeah.
And so like Scooby-Doo's no stranger to it. But one I'm going to bring up is where it kind of happens in reverse, where another show brought in Scooby-Doo as a guest, and that is Scooby Natural, the episode of Supernatural that crosses over with the Scooby-Doo cartoon. And it is great. Like, it worked so well, so unbelievably well, as ridiculous as it sounds.
I forgot they did that.
Yeah, it wasn't too far back. It was in one of their final seasons because they did finally wrap up after a very long run. And I had not watched Supernatural in a while. In its early days, I was a big fan of the show, probably for about the first 5 years. I really liked it. And then hung around till probably season 7 and then just kind of faded out after that. Like I never turned on it or anything. It was just like it kept going and I was ready for something else. And then, fast forward to season 13 and they decided to do a Scooby crossover. And that pulled me back in because like Scooby-Doo was one of my biggest childhood loves growing up. Like I loved everything about the Scooby-Doo and the gang. And the first birthday party I can remember was a Scooby-Doo themed birthday party with Pin the Tail on Scooby-Doo and a Scooby-Doo cake when I was 5.
Awesome.
I was big into it. But yeah, so I went back in for that episode to check it out and was not disappointed because the premise of it is that, Sam and Dean in their supernatural hunting ways encounter the episode opens with them fighting basically a giant Barney stuffed animal, but not Barney, like a non-trademark infringing Barney the dinosaur stuffed animal, and destroy it. And then they're in a pawn shop and save a pawn shop owner who says they can take anything they want from the pawn shop as a reward for saving his life. And Dean takes a TV. And then we find out the TV is also cursed and sucks them into an episode of Scooby-Doo. And that's the setup for the show. So the rest of the episode is animated in the form of Scooby-Doo.
Right.
And it was done by the people who were in charge of the Scooby-Doo cartoons in all the recent years. So the animation is produced by Spike Brandt, who we mentioned last week in our cartoons, unproduced cartoons we wish had happened show. Longtime animation producer with Warner Brothers, and one of the guys who's been kind of show running all the Scooby-Doo stuff of recent years. And then they also had the regular of the time Scooby voice cast. So Frank Welker as Fred and Scooby, Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, Greg Griffin as Daphne, and this time Kate McCucci, who's been on it recently, as Velma.
Right.
So they did, like, it lines up with all the Scooby stuff they've been doing recently and looks like an episode of Mystery Incorporated. So it is a great looking show.
Nice.
Like the backgrounds are so beautifully painted and was written by jointly one of the showrunners on Supernatural and also Jim Krieg from animation. The animation writer Jim Krieg and Jeremy Adams was another. I think he was a Supernatural writer. But yeah, so they all wrote it together.
That sounds fun. It sounds like when that show was wrapping up and they were just like, yeah, sure, let's try this. Let's do that.
Yeah, why not?
Yep. That's a fun place for a show to be sometimes when you're a viewer. Like if you stuck it out for that long. Because that show was on, 11 years?
Supernatural? It made it to 15 seasons.
Good. Yeah.
This happened in season 13.
Wow. Yeah. It wasn't even the end.
And Jensen Ackles has not aged a day in those 15 seasons.
Yeah. I thought it was the animated season that this occurred in. This was in the regular live action.
Yeah, this is in the live action. The episode starts, it's bookended by live action. It starts live action before they get sucked into the TV.
Wow.
I think it's not even the only episode where they got sucked into a TV, by the way. But I can't remember what happened the other time they got sucked into a TV. I think it might have been in the episodes I missed out on. But yeah, no, it's a good episode. And it like lovingly plays with Scooby-Doo because it's made by people who love the show, like Spike Brandt and Jim Krieg, but also like pokes fun at some of the stuff that you need to poke fun about with Scooby-Doo. And it's set in a mystery where Dean had seen all the episodes and thinks he knows everything that's happening until characters start getting actually killed in this cartoon. Like end up bloody, like end up decapitated, stabbed, whatever. And the Scooby gang like just kind of ignores it because it doesn't fit into their world. So they're like, oh, like we'll go find a clue somewhere else. And then they eventually have to explain like ghosts are real because it's a real ghost that put them in the show, and the Scooby Gang can't take it. And it's adorable.
I see. Right.
They start having this existential crisis about how they've just been, going after real estate, like corrupt real estate developers this whole time when they could have been fighting Dracula.
Right.
But it is a great episode. It's on Netflix currently. The whole show is, but this one's season 13, episode 16, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds
So
fun.
good. It's so
I'm gonna
great.
check that one out. Awesome. Good pick from left field, because I had forgotten about this completely. I remember more of the supernatural anime that
Right.
came out.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. This happened in the live action show, not the anime.
All right, Frank, you're number 3, which I don't know if
All
we're
right.
ranking this. I'm not ranking them. I don't know if
No,
you guys are.
no,
I'm
there's
just,
No.
it's for me to keep counting my head.
Yeah, it's just an exhibition, not a competition. So please, no
Right.
wagering. In going along real quick with what Clifton was saying, early on when we were talking about crossovers, one of my first recognizing a crossover, but this isn't really intercompany, was along the lines of ScoobyDoo, but it was the Laugh Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this isn't the one that I chose, but I thought we should mention it because
Right.
if you've never seen Laugh Olympics, whether it's been in, obviously it was on in the like early 80s.
Yeah.
But the idea was it was a competition between, you had the Scooby-Doobies, which was one team, and then the Yogi Yahooies, which is another team headed by Yogi Bear,
Right.
and then the Really Rottens, which was like all the bad guy characters from everything.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, early on they did this. This was a show that basically threw a bunch of different characters from different genres through all of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the one that I remember early on being like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I just want to throw that in. That's not the one that I chose. What I chose was something
that one had like Blue Falcon and
right.
Grape Ape and Penelope Pitstop and
Yeah.
Dastardly and Mudley. It was like any character you could imagine from a period of cartoons.
Yeah. You get just about anybody. So that was
Kind of
really
like
cool.
the new Space Jam.
And I think it was playing off of like Battle of the Network Stars, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
that too. I mean, I thinking back, I was trying to remember if it was obviously it was Laugh Olympics. It was somewhat Olympic themed, but at the same
Yeah.
time, now that you bring it up, yeah, I would say it was probably Battle of the Network Stars more than anything else.
Which, like, man, that's a weird thing I barely remember. But like when all your favorite TV stars would compete in weird semi-athletic
Right.
events, like, oh man, that was a weird thing.
You could have like Jan Smithers from KRP
Right.
and Kojak together on the same team.
Yeah, like in 100-yard dash for
Yeah.
some reason. It
And
was
then
the
the
weirdest thing.
And the weirdest part was like at the very end, the two teams that won the most had a tug of war. That was the
Right.
final. That was the final. That was the final. The final event was tug of war. So you'd have like Gabe Kaplan and Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley trying to pull against all these other people from CBS.
So, it was so weird, man.
very weird.
The 80s,
very bizarre.
crazy.
Yeah, they put
Yeah,
anything
but I
on
just saw it
TV.
as a friendly competition between the networks. you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing, it reminds me of Real World versus Road Rules.
Yeah, that was another take too. Because again,
Yeah.
it's funny that you say that because I remember when they first announced it that Judd Winnick, who was still who's an alumni from Real World, that was his comment about it was, yeah, it's like Laugh Olympics. And everyone kind of, even then, people were like, what? And then you'd have to explain the concept of what Laugh Olympics was. So, yeah, it's the same sort of thing. It just was with Real World Road Rules for those shows. All right, so getting back to my pick. So the pick that I chose
That's
was...
your honorable mention. That's not his actual pick.
Yeah, that's just an asterisk. That's just an asterisk. That doesn't count.
Okay.
My actual pick was one from comics, and it's one of my favorite crossovers of anything ever between two companies, and it is Wildcats Aliens.
Okay. Interesting.
Really?
And the reason why I chose it's a one shot written by Warren Ellis, and it's got art by Chris Sprouse, and then Kevin Nolan inks it. So it's a beautiful looking book. It's great.
Mm.
But the main thing about it was, even reading it, you could tell full well that it was something that was designed to actually have weight and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the research on it, I found out that Warren Ellis was not enthused about doing this crossover at all until he was told that you can kill off whoever you want to from the Stormwatch, because it takes place like on the Stormwatch, I think, satellite.
Okay.
And it's your typical Aliens, it's like a typical Aliens movie. the xenomorphs are loose, and then it's wholesale slaughter of these image characters that he didn't like, and then the Wildcats come and try to save whoever's left.
Right. So
he kills off a bunch of like these these characters from like I think he kills off like almost 8 or 9 different characters in the course of this one shot.
Oh wow.
Oh man, that's like Transformers the movie.
No, I'm sorry, it was less than that. It's like he kills like 4 or 5, but still he cleaned house. And the thing that I didn't understand was the reason why he did this is because he wanted to take all the characters he didn't like off the board, and this leads to us getting the Authority.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and he even says he didn't want to do the crossover because generally these things are just they're just put together, they have their adventure, and then it goes back to status quo at the end of it.
Right.
But once he was told go ahead and kill them all or kill whoever you want, he was on board.
Wow. So the xenomorphs brought us Authority.
Right. And then every now and then in Authority or in other places, you would hear that time, there would be that mention of, the alien, not the quote unquote aliens, but there was some kind of infestation on the satellite, and that's what happened to people. Because they couldn't refer to them after that point as what actually happened.
Right.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that that like some semblance of it stuck.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That does not happen.
Nope. It counted. So that's what it's a good looking book. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun from the standpoint of, full well that it has weight and meaning, and it's also a good story. But yeah, that's the one that I chose was my first choice.
Interesting. You should bring that one up. Because I am adjusting.
Okay.
And I am pulling from my reserve list Superman and Aliens.
Oh, that was on my list too.
Right? Okay.
it was one or the other, but you're right. Go on. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Man, these xenomorphs get around.
I know, right? Also, so this was written by Dan Jurgens, and he did some art layout for it, but it was finished by Kevin Nolan.
Yes.
Who also worked on this book.
Good looking book, too.
That's interesting. Weird synergy here, Frank. But so I had this was around the time for Superman the Animated Series when I was just falling in love with the character. And I remember Wizard did like a Superman magazine special. And in the back of it, it had the 10 greatest Superman stories. And this was like number 9, number 8 or 9, something like that. And I was like, oh, that sounds like that's interesting. Like even then I was young, but I was like, wow, like crossovers don't usually make it into best story ever category.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I tracked this one down and it's 3 issues. And, the setup is kind of what you would expect. There's a distress call to Earth and there's some ship out there that has been attacked, and Superman has to go out and help them out, and so he does. So he takes a ship out there, and then when he gets in, he walks into an alien, xenomorph infestation. But it's interesting now because he's so far away from Earth's sun that he's at like half power,
right,
and his power is like kind of dwindling the longer and longer he's out there trying to solve this problem, and he gets impregnated by one of the aliens at one point.
Yes.
In this story, which is pretty cool. It's been years and years and years since I've read it.
Okay.
Aren't they also on the ship or something? There's like a decaying orbit. Is that what I'm thinking too? Or is that not it, that one?
Maybe.
All right.
Like I said, man, this is reserve list here, man.
I got you.
I do remember that there was a character on there named Kara. He meets like a young teenage girl on the ship named Kara, but it's not Supergirl.
No.
Right. And that was always kind of the confusing thing for me because I was like, is this like them playing with Supergirl before she was like back in the comics? What I mean?
Like, I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. Was they hadn't settled on bringing her back. They had not gotten to the Jeff Loeb, Michael Turner arc in the Batman Superman or the Superman Batman book.
Right.
If I remember correctly, they hadn't got to that yet.
So they were just teasing some stuff.
Yes.
I'm not even sure the Peter David stuff was being done at that point either, right?
Right. Probably not.
So yeah, I mean, that's always been kind of the funny thing to me. I didn't know if that was like a testing the waters thing, I don't know. It's a good book. I don't know where you find it now. I mean, this is one of those that I think is going to get kind of caught up in maybe some weird licensing because that was DC and Dark Horse.
Right.
But now the aliens are owned by Marvel.
Belong to Marvel, yeah.
Right. And so I don't know that this is this is going to be traded again, or maybe it will be down the line. I would, if you guys are interested in picking it up, I would, eBay, I would say, and conventions when those become a thing again. Because I know Marvel's got plans to do an Alien book again,
right?
But I don't know how this factors in to if it's ever going to be reprinted again. But it's a good story, though. It was, it is a very cool book.
Yes.
Now they can do the X-Men Brood story movie, but use xenomorphs.
Yes.
Oh, that's true. I'd watch that movie. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
All right. So we are back to Tommy. We were number 2 pick.
I was okay, flat out. I was going to say Injustice 2 or the Injustice series.
Damn you.
Just because.
Damn you.
Specifically Injustice 2 because it had the turtles in it.
Okay.
Yes. This was a
So we're going to video games now.
Yes,
we're covering all the topics.
Yeah, I had this on my list too. Thanks, Tommy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it because that's not really my pick.
Oh, he's taking other people's picks he doesn't even want.
Oh, this is your honorable mention. Okay.
Yeah. It's honorable mention because of the characters they had in it. Like, it wasn't enough that they had Mortal Kombat characters in, because the whole franchise started with a mashup of DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat.
That was on my list too.
Oh. Okay.
All right, jump in, Frank. This is your topic now.
Yeah. It feels that way.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Tommy. Sorry.
But the one I really loved, because it was tangentially going into versus fighting games, which was the whole Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Yeah.
Is that on your list, Frank?
No, I didn't have that one.
Well, I should have just kept my mouth shut and let you talk about that. But anyway, I love the Marvel vs. Capcom series, especially the second one, because it started out with just getting Street Fighter series,
right,
in which they decided to blend in with the X-Men series, which at the time was a side scroller. But when they made it into a fighting game, I lost my mind. They just got better and better in it. But the real gem of the series was Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Mm-hmm.
But what reminded me of it is recently Hasbro created a figure for that particular Iron Man design that was in it, because it's not really in the comics. But it was something that friends, my brothers, we played incessantly.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a huge matchup that we didn't think would occur. I mean,
that game was addictive as hell, man.
Oh, it was. Oh, and it was nice is they made current comic depictions of the characters as they were seen in books now. Like, my favorite lineup was with Cable, Iron Man, and Psylocke.
Okay.
But they had 64 players.
Wow.
Yeah, 32 on each side. And the obscurity they used for Capcom, like, we'd get Arthur from Ghouls and Ghosts.
Oh, okay.
As an option, but it just was a deep dive for Capcom.
I thought you were going to say for the PBS show. Like the meme of the fist.
Yeah, he's ready to go. He's holding it in.
But no, it's more of a love and nostalgic period. We played that thing for hours. We got it on the we first got it on the PS2, but our best love of it was I want to say a 360.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we played that in
Dreamcast for me. My buddy had a Dreamcast.
Yeah, we played on Dreamcast too. It was great on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only played X-Men characters though. I remember really? I just wanted, because I remember there was that one X-Men arcade game, the Children of the Atom, the X-Men fighting game, and I'm like, why don't they just do more of that? And I remember just being like, why is Mega Man in this? Just do an X-Men game.
Oh, Mega Man was fun. I love Mega Man.
Mega Man and Iron Man team up that I always wanted.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. It just made sense.
I ran a tight ship. I was like, it was only X-Men characters could team up with X-Men characters.
Right.
Who was your favorite lineup for the X-Men character?
I did Cable, Wolverine, and Iceman.
Nice. I forgot about Iceman. Oh my gosh.
Which, saying that list, you know what era of X-Men I read.
Yes.
But Iceman is the But
yeah, when he has the belt on, where it regulates his powers. Yes. Off of X Factor. But no, my pick was Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Really the series, but that one in itself, hands down. It was funny because in the third incarnation, all the characters that we get in the MCU sort of start. I mean, well, it seemed like they were cherry picked before it really developed into it. And what I mean by that is, in the third one, we get Rocket, we get Ghost Rider. It's like all the standouts from the series were in that video game before they got pushed. Like at the time, I didn't even know who Rocket was till Guardians of the Galaxy really came out in the theaters, you know?
Right.
What year did 3 come out?
I believe 3 came out in 2011.
Okay, so like Rocket was around from in the comics from the Abnett and Lanning, like Annihilation, Cosmic Marvel stuff. So I guess they were drawing from that.
Okay. But to me what's weird is they had Shuma Gorath?
Mm-hmm.
Which I have no idea who that person or that character is to this day. But I knew some Marvel character.
Well, Shuma Gorath was also in the Infinity Gems, Infinity Stones Marvel or Capcom game that they had with Thanos and Spider-Man and Hulk. That game, did you ever play that?
Yeah, you're right. The first one but basically a starfish with tentacle arms.
Yeah, I mean he's a Doctor Strange. He's a Doctor Strange villain, basically.
Okay, but I just find it weird that they would put that in. Just the oddball character. But I love that game.
All right, extra points for putting a video game on here. Very cool.
Yes,
very very cool.
And for stealing multiple ones from Frank.
Yeah, I had a couple because getting back to Injustice 2, I've talked about it before, but one of the great things about it is yes, you can play all 4 of the Turtles. Right, against a huge roster of DC characters, as well as one of the other DLC characters was Hellboy.
Yes, yes,
okay.
So you can have Hellboy go up against this other roster too, which I thought was that sort of thing doesn't really happen all that often. Like going into it, you're pretty much assured that you get Mortal Kombat characters from it, but you didn't know that there was rumors all over the place of what you got. And the thing about the Turtles was they would show you silhouettes of upcoming characters for the DLC, and people were like speculating and trying to guess what it was, and the character would look like they had a trench coat and a hat, so people were like, oh, it's Rorschach. Rorschach's going to be in this fighting game, and it wasn't. It was the Turtles in a trench coat and a hat trying to go out in disguise. So
it's just Raphael.
Awesome. Yes, so it worked out really well to get the Turtles. So yeah, I love Injustice 2 just for the game itself, but the DLC for it was really cool that we got those characters.
That was a Halloween costume for me in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtle in the trench coat and hat.
Nice.
Yeah, because I just had a digital mask. I didn't have a costume. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It works.
Yeah. It does, right?
Yeah, but also like Tommy was saying, the one that they had before that was Mortal Kombat DC Universe, which was a much smaller roster, but the same idea where you could basically pit Mortal Kombat characters against DC characters, but without all the fatalities.
Yeah.
Right, because people who play Mortal Kombat love that.
Yes.
No fatalities.
They were thrilled that they couldn't have their, you couldn't rip
That's the worst part of a Mortal Kombat game.
Right.
Yes. You couldn't rip out Batman's spine and show it to him before he died.
Yes, indeed.
And then people were not happy with the fact that you couldn't do that. So
what's the point of playing if you couldn't do that, man?
I know. Yeah, if there's no trauma you don't feel traumatized after playing the Mortal Kombat game, why play?
Indeed.
Plus, what would happen if you tried to do one with Batman? He would just be like, I don't kill.
Right.
Killing is crossing a line, and what makes us different from them? And
why isn't this button combo working for Batman?
It should just be a monologue on a gargoyle of him saying that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that was Frank's. Okay. So it's Clifton's number 2. And then Frank, you'll go if you have any left.
Yeah. I'll find something.
So number 2, I'm going to go to comics this time. And it is, again, from my early formative years, one where it kind of blew my mind. And it was G.I. Joe Transformers comic from Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I cannot remember exactly what year that was. Do you remember, Zach?
I don't. This is the one in the 80s. I assume you're saying, right?
Yep,
okay.
The first one in the 80s. I just remember, like, it was before I was really into comics. At that point in my life, like, I would occasionally pick one up at a 7-Eleven or something off the spinner rack, but not regularly, just, if I was there with my folks and they wanted to give me a treat or something. But I remember, like, a kid showing up on the playground at recess with a copy of one of these. And, like, all the other kids gathering around to be like, what? No way. Like, that's a thing? Because like we love G.I. Joe and Transformers, so like put them together.
It was from January to April of 1987.
87, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, elementary school playground for me at that time. And like it blew all of our minds in recess to the point where like I remember having to go home trying to ride my bike up to the local newsstand or whatever that was up the street to be like, which ones you got? And I got number 3 and 4, but they didn't have 1 and 2, and I've never gotten 1 and 2 ever.
Aw.
Yeah, I've been disappointed.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Because that cover for number 1 is, I remember the time I was, I was at the Transformers and G.I. Joe, and that cover for number 1 is pretty stark.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen it, with the Joes just blowing apart Bumblebee.
Yes, I remember.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll post some of those covers on letmeknowhowitis.com because I want to see them too.
Yeah.
Actually, because I mean they've done a number of these now by now.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
2021. I mean, they've crossed over a bunch of times. So I actually can't really even picture what some of these original ones look like.
Right.
But it's awesome every time. And it's really, it's that's an easy one for me too. You'll get me just about every time. those companies cross over, or those franchises cross over, I should say.
Right. Yeah, because some of these are distinct companies coming together, and some of them are just separate properties under the same company. Like ScoobyDoo and Supernatural are all Warner Brothers properties now, but distinctly different things.
Oh, right. Okay, Frank, you got any left?
I do, actually.
Okay.
Surprise.
All right.
Another one that was I thought was a fairly, it was a good crossover, but it was a fairly odd one. Was from DC and Dark Horse in, what year was it? 1999 it came out. 2 issues, which was Batman, Hellboy, Starman.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was written by James Robinson with art by Mike Mignola. It's in Starman's own book, like he had teamed up with Batman like once or twice in the run by this point. Oddly enough, the editor on this was Peter Tomasi before he started writing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a great one. It's just it's got it starts off with Golden Age Starman Ted Knight is kidnapped by neo-Nazis, and then Batman and Hellboy team up together, and obviously Jack Knight is involved. And then the second one is basically a story about Hellboy and Starman and Batman working together.
Okay.
So yeah, it was one of those things where I remember when it was advertised, it was kind of a head scratcher. I mean, I like all 3 of those characters a lot. I like, Hellboy, I enjoy Starman, and, Batman is a fave as well. To see them smushed together in sort of a like Brave and the Bold type team up was pretty cool.
Right.
I don't know where you could find this now because, again, I don't know. It might be available on Comixology. I'm not sure.
It was traded. I know it was traded.
Okay.
Not too long ago.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not too long. I mean, could have been within, last 6 years, 7 years or something like that. But I remember it being traded in a new printing not all that long ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, as team ups go, it was just one of those. I remember it was unique, and I remember seeing like the trade dress for it, like the ads in comics, as well as like I was working at the comic shop at that point, and there was like a poster, and it was just, again, very striking to see the 3 of them together because again, I had that feeling of, this is weird. This probably shouldn't be happening, like we talked about, but it's happening. It's a thing that's going to be. So yeah, that would be my second choice for team ups that I love, or crossovers that I love, I should say.
Okay. Cool. All right. So for my number 2, admittedly, I'm going with one I've never read before, but I'm picking this one because it was very recent. It came out end of 2019. And this is the first crossover in a while that in comics that I was like, oh, wow, like that's a duh. Why haven't we, like, why is this the first time we're getting this? And it was Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, of course, sure. That like this is so easy. And there's a really cool, like, I think it was a variant cover maybe, but it was a neat like the Power Rangers and Turtles like fighting Shredder and everything like that. And they did like a normal cover, and then they did a variant cover, but in the variant cover, like Shredder was kind of dolled up as the Green Ranger. So he had like this mashup like Green Ranger armor with spikes all over it.
Okay.
Right. and the turtles were actually like in Power Ranger garb, which I thought was awesome. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really cool that, you know, you went from the color-coded bandanas to the color-coded Power Ranger suits. And then the Power Rangers themselves were like in their ninja outfits that they would wear like in the movies.
Right.
Like, you know, and I was like, this looks great. I got to track this one down. And then, you know, I haven't been in a comic shop in a year. So, you know.
It's funny. Those are the two properties where it was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the king of children's entertainment until Power Rangers kind of dethroned it back in the late 80s through the mid 90s.
No, I can't wait to read it. I just think it's going to be so cool. You know, we know Donatello's building his own like Mechazord thing, right? We know that's going to happen.
Is it going to be a giant turtle Mechazord?
It's got to be. It's going to be like a giant metal head, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, all right. Okay, so we're coming around to our number one. So, Tommy, what's your number one?
Oh, it's torn.
Okay.
I wanted to go with unassuming and one that I hated, but it happened. Well, I'll go with unassuming. The unassuming one that I didn't know up until recently was Usagi Yojimbo from the Turtles.
Okay.
I never knew it wasn't a Turtles creation.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I always thought he was just a random character that Lard and Eastman made into the Turtles world. Mm-hmm. I never knew Stan Sakai did it, created it, and like, you know, I like Turtles. Let's do a collabo. Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Never knew that was a crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they crossed over in like every cartoon.
Yep, it became a tradition.
That's the cool thing. Yeah, I mean the 80s one did it. Then, you know, the 2003 show even did it. Yep. You know, it took them a while for the Nickelodeon one, but it got worked out, and they did them in the last season.
Yeah, for a 2-parter, right? 2 or 3-parter.
I think it was a 3-parter.
Yeah,
and it was in that Tales of the Ninja Turtles season, which was really cool. I actually like that season a lot. He's actually got a Netflix show like in the works. For Usagi Yojimbo that was announced a little while ago. We haven't seen anything from it, but I can't wait.
Yeah, but rightly deserved, because he's been waiting in the wings all this time without even bringing any limelight to his own universe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the comics are good. I've read the comics over the years from Stan Sakai, and Stan Sakai is a great artist, great creator. And like, yeah, like if you like those Usagi appearances you've seen along the way, definitely go check out the original stuff, because it's all as good as you can imagine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, but that's my pick. Would you like to know my worst, or I'll just keep it for another day?
Yeah, throw it out. I mean, clearly we're not sticking with these threes, because we've all had six or seven named over here. So,
but because there's so much. That's like,
I know there is a lot. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I pray it's not the one I'm saying is my favorite though.
No, this couldn't be your favorite. This okay. I would judge you harshly if this was your favorite. It was called Cartoon All Stars to the Rescue.
Oh, okay.
No one had that, right?
Not for this one.
Not for this. No.
Okay.
It almost came up 2 episodes ago, though.
Yeah. Yes. But it jumped out. I just had to mention. In 1990, the networks came up with a anti-drug or drug abuse prevention TV special. And this is across ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a 30-minute message to stop kids from using drugs. And the drug in question was marijuana.
Which was embodied in the show by like an animated marijuana cloud with a face that talked. Like an anthropomorphic cloud of marijuana smoke. Following this kid around, telling him to do bad things.
Yes.
It's great.
He stole from his sister in order to pay for his habit, which involved marijuana and alcohol.
How was he motivated to do that?
What, the smoke or the kid?
Well, like at first he kind of gets into it. I haven't seen it in a little while, but like I think it's probably like older kids, like, you know, get them into it, and then it's after that it's this marijuana cloud that's just like steal from your sister and do this and do that, and like this, it would be cool if you did this, and then the sister like when she finds out like her brother's stealing from her, his little sister is stealing her allowance. Like she's like, oh, like what can I do? And then like these cartoon characters start coming to life, including like the Muppet Babies.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, oh, like we'll help you. Like we have to fix this for you.
The lineup is insane that help her in order to come help her with their issue with her brother. You have Alf.
Yes, from the cartoon and the show.
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have Huey, Dewey, and Louie from DuckTales.
Oh no.
We have Garfield.
Yes.
Yep.
We have Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. From the Muppet Babies, we have Baby Kermit, Baby Piggy, and Baby Gonzo. Winnie the Pooh, Tigger.
I think Tigger was on something himself.
He had to be. Slimer
from
Ghostbusters. Papa Smurf, Brainy Smurf, and Hefty Smurf from the Smurfs.
Why Brady? Nobody would listen to Brady.
No one listens to Brady, but yeah.
They just toss him.
No Smurfette though, but she was in the poster.
Yes, but
I
she's
think,
not
right?
in it. Yeah, but she's not in it. And then Michelangelo from the Turtles.
Yep.
So does drugs ever say zip zap zooey?
I cannot remember for sure.
Okay.
But this one was the talk of the play. No, not talk of the play. Talk of the lunchroom because I was in middle school when this one happened. But yeah, we were all like went home and watched this thing because we couldn't believe it was happening.
Yep.
It was simulcast across the board. So even if you wanted to switch it to another channel, no can do.
You couldn't escape it.
You couldn't.
No.
This was my Super Bowl when it was like I was 7, maybe 8.
Right.
Yeah.
when this happened, like, yeah, I couldn't believe this. Like, yeah, no, I guess this was my first experience with a crossover. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess thinking about it.
And you were there for the Turtles, and they only put Michelangelo in, which, like, it does make sense. If you're going to pick a turtle for a drug thing, it's going to be Michelangelo. That does check out. But I, in the past, like, several years, had made a friend of ours watch this one day and made him tag it on Facebook that he was watching it when Facebook would do that. And it was our friend X. And then after he finished it, I was like, now you learned the valuable lesson that if you do drugs, all of your favorite cartoon characters will come to life and be your friends.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
You see? Yeah. The one time it's not for profit.
Right.
Except for Big Drug.
Yeah.
All right. Clifton, what's your number one?
My number one is one where the crossover itself is not necessarily the focus of this project, but like the crossover aspect, it was so momentous, I have to include it, and that is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which, I mean, the story focuses, original character Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit, but like the crossovers of Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck and Daffy Duck, like that stuff was crazy to me as a kid that we were seeing it happen. That like after, decades and decades and decades, like we finally saw these characters together. And I know there was a lot of wrangling behind the scenes of like how much like Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse have to get the exact same amount of on-screen time, like to the second.
Yep. That's why they're in the scene together.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And like you can't mistreat Bugs or Mickey. Like they have to be fine. But like Donald and Daffy, because they're, the scoundrels.
Right.
Like we're able to be seen in kind of a negative light, but still also have to have like equal time.
Right.
Yeah. Like that aspect of it was crazy to me as a kid.
No, that's a good one too.
So I include that one just because it was such a momentous.
On top of just being a great movie too. Like,
yeah, I mean, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit is fantastic as a film.
No, good one. Good one. One I wouldn't have thought of to pick, but yeah, fantastic choice. Love that movie.
Well, you want your brain to explode, Zach?
Sure.
The script was given to Eddie Murphy first, and he's like, nah.
Right.
So there's a universe out there where Eddie Murphy takes the role of Bob Hoskins, and
where Eddie Murphy is Eddie Valiant.
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
I need I need a remote to that dimension.
Yes.
Just to watch that movie for 2 hours. That would have been awesome. But it still is awesome, so I'm not going to cry too much.
Yeah.
No, it's a great movie.
All right, Frank, number one.
Number one for me is probably obvious. One of the big things when I first started getting into crossovers, or acknowledging them, besides like Laugh Olympics, was the big Treasury size comics.
Mm-hmm.
And though a lot of those early ones were Marvel and DC, and while I love those books, there was always the one that I thought was never going to happen, and that was JLA Avengers.
Okay.
Right.
It was one point talked about being done in like the early or late 70s, early 80s. Jerry Conway and George Perez were supposed to do it. It was going to be the main villain. It was going to have the JLA, lineup, and then the Avengers go against the Lord of Time and Kang the Conqueror. For whatever reason, there was some kind of dispute between the two companies. It basically got shelved. It didn't get done. I think Perez drew maybe like 20 or so pages of it, and then for decades there was just like hints. You get like a piece of art here and a piece of art there, or a page there, or whatever. And this is long before the internet, so obviously it wasn't as simple as like doing a search for it. But in the early 2000s, you had an announcement that Kurt Busiek, who was at that point was writing, I believe he was writing Avengers, and then Mark Waid was writing JLA, and they were going to write it together, but Waid had some kind of exclusivity deal with CrossGen, so he couldn't write it. But Kurt Busiek wrote it and then had, again, George Perez doing the artwork on it. And it was a 4-issue miniseries that came out in 2003 through 2004. But it's great. I mean, I love it. It's a lot of fun. If you like either of those teams, you like the idea of them crossing over.
Right.
You like seeing the Avengers go up against Starro, soon to be star of, Suicide Squad movie. It's one of those things where it would be unheard of, the idea now to have Starro at some way in the MCU.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it starts off with Corona, this Green Lantern villain, and the Grand Master, this Marvel villain, basically having a contest, and then they pit the two teams against together, and there's like all these different weapons and trinkets throughout the two universes, and I love it. I think it's a great crossover. It's one of those things where it's hard to find because, well, I mean, the single issues I think you can get, but like if you're looking for the trade or you're looking for like the hardcover, it's pretty hard to find.
Yeah, this is not coming back into print.
Yeah, it's not coming back to print.
Most likely.
You can't get it on Comixology. It's one of those things where, the only way to get is to buy the individual issues. So, but as a crossover, it's gorgeous. It looks cool. I think at one point Perez draws the entirety of the lineup of the Avengers and the entirety lineup of the JLA at that time. I mean, every character that's ever been in either team throughout that miniseries. And without teasing the last issue, there's a moment where an image, you've probably seen it, but I don't want to spoil it if you haven't, where a character does something, really, really cool that you wouldn't think that character would do without this crossover happening. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Pick it up, track it down, try to.
Yes.
Yeah. Crazy to me. I mean, I guess maybe not because it took so long to come out. But I mean, it is nuts to me how few crossovers out there get follow-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking back to the Batman Ninja Turtles that happened 4 times, and I'm like, that doesn't happen that often. Like, I mean, like, right?
Right.
Batman and Hulk happened 1 time.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
Yeah, it's a little perplexing to me on some level, but that's not my number one. I'm not picking Batman versus Hulk. I am picking Marvel versus DC / amalgam.
Okay.
From 1996.
Really? It's a good segue from the last one.
I am picking it because of amalgam. This is an interesting crossover that was Marvel versus DC, so that was a big thing. Everybody was excited about, like, what's going to happen, because they were advertising like, Captain America versus Batman and Hulk versus Superman and Storm versus Wonder Woman and all kinds of like cool stuff like that, which was neat. But what I thought was, like, looking back at it at the time, thought it was super weird, is the amalgam line, which is there was a point where they started like mashing these characters up.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got like Dark Claw, who was a mashup of Wolverine and Batman.
Yep.
And you got Super Soldier, who was a mashup of Captain America and Superman and Iron Lantern. And I just like looking back at that now, I'm just like, whoa, like that is so crazy. I can't believe they did that, but I'm so happy they did now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was really popular at the time. I remember like everyone being into it.
But I have a question. Wasn't at one point people asked to vote who would beat the other?
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. I'm it's vague. I remember the mashup, what you said with the amalgam being the new line in which you had a smash up of popular characters. But I was just trying to remember who they determined would win a fight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, I don't remember how any of it happened. I don't remember also like how the amalgam stuff, like within story context, like how it made sense or any of that stuff. But it's just one of those things that I'm just like, man, this is so cool. And for me, because again, perfect age for me, like this is when I was huge into the X-Men at this point, but I was also getting old enough that like I was starting to tell that like Batman the Animated Series was a better made show. Right. And I was starting to enjoy that. And so in my head, I kept going like, and I fell in love with that Bruce Timm style. And I was like, man, I want to know what it would look like for some of that Marvel stuff to be drawn like in his style. And at that time, like I couldn't, you can Google Bruce Timm drawing sketches of Daredevil and Spider-Man and stuff like that. But at the time, you couldn't find that stuff. And so in the second batch of one-shots that they did in 97, they did one that was Dark Claw Adventures. And it was done by Ty Templeton. And so that was my way that I could see like Ty Templeton draw through the Bruce Timm style like Wolverine and Jubilee. And I can get kind of like, I could sort of imagine what some of those characters would look like that way. And that's like that issue is just so much fun, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so easy from Ty Templeton's art, who was drawing in the model of the Batman the Animated Series style. Like you can totally picture that being an animated project at some point. Like you can imagine it. Just looking at that cover, you can see it almost move.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a very, very fun line. So
yeah, amalgam was fun.
Yeah. Again, I don't know where you can find it. I mean, I'm sure you can find issues here and there online, but it's not on DC Universe or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, these projects, when they came about, the Avengers JLA and Amalgam, like people would think of the competition between Marvel and DC that had gone on decades and be like, we never, like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe they're getting along well enough to do this. And then now, like, DC is part of Warner and Marvel is part of Disney. Like, they're further from it happening now than they ever were.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so far from being a possibility now.
Yeah, that was when you're talking about crossovers and not getting sequels. In doing research about JLA Avengers and when it didn't come together in the 70s or the early 80s, they had a X-Men Teen Titans 2 on the books, but because like negotiations fell apart between like Jim Shooter and DC, that book got shelved as well.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so nuts too, because I mean, like at the time too, when Marvel and DC were both based out of New York, and like, these guys would play softball together.
Right.
Like, like these guys all knew each other. Like, you know what I mean? Like you would think it would have been easier for these companies to get along and do this stuff more often, but you never know. Like, we do have a note from our engineer who looked it up, and it was conducted through fan voting, the Marvel versus DC, and Marvel like won overall, apparently. So fun ones, a lot of fun ones here. All right, so we're going to start wrapping up by naming a crossover that we would all like to see happen. But first, if you like the show, you can check out all of our episodes on YouTube at letmeknowhowitis.com. Just please, however you find us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And finally, if there's anything you want us to discuss, you can leave a topic suggestion on Twitter or in the comments. Our show's handles are at LMKHII. All right. Tommy, what's a crossover you want to see?
I got this from the internet, and I didn't think it was a bad idea. Army of Darkness versus Hellboy. I want to see a team up of Ash and Hellboy. It just seems beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's not been a comic yet?
No. Exactly. See?
Wow.
Yeah.
Ash has teamed up with a lot of people, but not Hellboy yet.
Yeah.
And Hellboy's teamed up with a lot of people, but not Ash yet.
Yes,
not
exactly.
It almost seemed perfect, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's got to happen sometime.
That's what I said. I was like, that's not a thing. And then I looked into it. Nope, nothing.
Yeah. They both got attitude and they both have something wrong with one of their hands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a natural.
That's my pick.
All right.
I can see that
That's
one.
a cool one.
I can totally see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's up next? Clifton, you're next.
Before I bring up mine, I'm going to dip into an honorable mention that
Okay.
will set up mine. And that is the one-shot comic by Bat and Lash with art by Stan Goldberg, John Buscema, and Tom Palmer, published by Archie Comics and Marvel Comics in June of 1994. And that is Archie Meets the Punisher.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank goodness somebody brought this up. I was shocked this one didn't come up.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was saving it a little bit just for this one to
Okay.
bring up. So that is a real thing that happened in comics.
Yep.
Twice, if I remember, or both companies published it or something like that. Our engineer, I know, is an expert on this one.
Yes.
But yeah, so Archie and like Punisher went to Riverdale in this comic, and it is a real thing that happened, and yeah, so it was a joint publication by Archie and Marvel.
And surprisingly, it's not in the Bonkers TV show.
Right. And so that's what I'm going to.
Ah, there it is. Okay, good.
So the crossover I want to see now between two properties is Riverdale
Right.
crossing over with Netflix's Punisher.
John Bernthal.
John Bernthal. I want John Bernthal as Punisher to show up in Riverdale on Riverdale. That's the crossover I want now.
I'd be happy with that. Yes, absolutely.
That's it.
Yep.
I'd watch that.
And it's not so strange. It's not as strange as the comic crossover is.
Or stuff
Yeah.
that's already going on in Riverdale, for
Right.
that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, it would be the least weird thing that happens
Yeah.
on that show.
Yeah. No, that's
Absolutely.
what I mean. Like it's so much more seamless
Yep.
if it
Yes.
happens this way.
So
Yeah.
that's what I want. The recreation of the Archie Meets Punisher comic on Riverdale with John Bernthal as Punisher.
Nice.
Yes.
The other one I was shocked that didn't come up to was Archie Meets the Predator.
Yeah.
which was much more recent than
Right.
Archie Punisher.
Yeah.
That was just within the past 5-6 years or so.
Yep.
And is great too.
Okay, Frank, you got one?
I do have one.
Okay.
I had a Hellboy one, but I'm going to go with a different one since Tommy had a Hellboy one.
He's been stealing from you all night.
I'm psychic.
Yes. Yes. I'm a little bit psychic. I've always wanted and always surprised that we never got it because Marvel had the license at one point. I'm surprised we never got Indiana Jones Captain America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
That's the one that I wanted to see.
Huh.
Yeah. Both punching Nazis.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have triangular, shielded Cap. At that point, I'd imagine it probably wouldn't be quite, the circular shield yet. But, you're the whole thing of you're an archaeologist, you're an archaeology professor. Sometimes, the whole thing. I just want to see the two of them team up and punch Nazis. Yeah, that's basically it. And then see, I wouldn't mind seeing.
Pitch.
I wouldn't mind. Well, the other thing is, I wouldn't mind seeing Indy punch the Red Skull.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you could do you could do a semi supernatural plot because I don't really think there were a lot of those with Cap early in that time. I could be
Right.
wrong, but I think the idea of that whole thing would work really well. I think the two of them together would be really cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who's got the rights to that now.
That Indiana Jones is in kind of mixed territory where Lucasfilm had some rights and I think Paramount had some rights. So Disney got the part that Lucasfilm had rights to when they bought Lucasfilm,
Right.
but then Paramount still has some rights. So I'm not
Gotcha.
entirely sure on that.
So they have to work something out. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. But yeah, that's my choice. I would go with Indian Cap.
That's right. I forgot that he is partially in the Disney camp now.
Yep.
That's
Mhm.
right.
So maybe it could happen.
Because Marvel did the adaptations, and then there were a couple issues by John Byrne of like Further Adventures of Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
but that was about it. And then
Yeah.
Dark Horse had the license forever. So
Right.
I'm surprised you pulled out Indiana Jones because I was going to say Indiana Jones
Hmm.
with Scrooge McDuck. I don't know what that story would be, but it would be cool.
There'll be a lot of rolling boulders. That's
Yep,
for sure.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of going through caves looking for treasure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that.
I can picture it like an old Carl Barks Scrooge with Indiana Jones.
Wouldn't it be? Oh man, the screaming match they would have against each other.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be classic. Maybe someday. I don't know.
Yeah,
Probably
it's
not.
possible.
Probably not. Okay, listeners, there's got to be a great one we left out, so let us know what your favorite crossovers are. As always, we'll post links and examples to everything we talk about on letmeknowhowitis.com. Please remember to like us and follow us on social media, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.